from today, the radio will be. From today, you can listen to the radio, and in the olden part of Yeosu, you cannot hear. You cannot listen in the olden Yeosu, but they said after opening ceremony, they will try to make another antenna. So if we have other place that emits signal here, I thought that could also be okay. Please tolerate a little until it's sorted. In Yeosu, it's quite good already. And you can hear until Pergyo. And yesterday, when I was coming back from the Suncheon, the prison, the teaching, the Buddhist teaching, we could hear all the way to Jungang Heights apartments, and people living in olden part of Yeosu, including me, we cannot hear at all. Maresan and also many different mountains of Yeosu are blocking it. And also the Jonggo mountain here. We are going to open today. And you will be able to hear it from today. So please come to 시민회관 until 5:30. Well, nowadays I forget to tell you at the end of the teaching, so I'm telling you in advance. It's a live broadcasting on radio from 6 o'clock. They're going to start it right away from 6 o'clock sharp. And they're also going to record it and show it on TV after editing. Page number 138, fifth line from the bottom. The cultivation of the way is the level that you get over all the obstacles in your practice. When you step away the seventh stage, from the eighth stage, if you don't want to sleep, you don't have to sleep. And you will also not face too much numbness. And also the afflictions that you have right now, they will not arise habitually. The agitation and numbness, the difficulties that you had, they will start to eradicate. And from that moment, we say you're actually doing your practice. Until then, we're just doing it by force. Even the meditation of the questioning the fundamental question, you have to do it purposely in the beginning. And later, when you are free from the agitation and also the numbness or distortion, then automatically you will be able to see. Before you enter into the cultivation of the way or the spirit cultivation, you will give so many different excuses not to do your practice. There will be many excuses for not being able to do it. Why is it so? Because of the feeling of the attachment to the self. they will try. They will keep causing the obstructions and make it difficult for you to practice. When you when you're when you pass the seventh and eighth stage of bodhisattva, then the if you want to concentrate, then the concentration comes automatically. Avalokitesvara, you'll be able to do it automatically. And other distracting thoughts, they will not happen. You will have no other distracting thoughts. So at the time, you will feel very light at heart at the time. You know, the weight of the thoughts is quite heavy. The thoughts are very heavy. When you're thinking something very serious, then the weight presses your head down, and sometimes because it's so heavy, you tie your head around. And also, when it's too heavy, you also have pillow to sleep on. The thoughts are very heavy, but the weight will all disappear. And so if there is something that causes you to lie down with your head tied, that means something is wrong. Only about 6 people answered. And also, when you have the light and pleasant feeling of the undisturbed mind, you also have the comfort of your heart. And then we say the person is actually doing his asceticism practice. All the things that happened before, that is just an effort. You keep making your efforts, and so you feel that something has happened, and when you try to see that has not been true, and then you also give so many different excuses and go to the wrong path. The thing that helps you the most when you're studying is speaking less and roaming around less, wandering around less, and eating less. If if the person has very heavy mouth, to say if the person is very if the person doesn't speak so much, and if the person is not, then if the person tolerates for about 10 years, then that person would have mustache. Where if doctors listen to this, they could be smiling because that's nothing to do with the medical issues. So you're actually entering into the boundary of getting rid of the afflictions. But those people who doesn't know about the relations, the reason why I'm trying to do this radio thing this time is because even though there are people who doesn't have any relation with the Buddhist teaching, we who has relation with them, relation with the Buddhist teaching, we should be able to enable them to provide. We should be able to enable them to formulate your relation with the Buddhist teaching. Where even when you're walking on the even when you're exercising in the park, it's good to see a bench when our legs hurt. So even no matter how great the Buddhist teaching is, there is no other teaching that's greater than Buddha's teaching, how to be happy and get rid of our agony. But if we have done something so bad that there is no even place to throw away the garbage, or there's no place to rest when our legs hurt, then then we are scored 0, and most of us are 0. If we are evaluated in terms of religion, then even if I give you very good score, it's less than 20. That too, we only get the score because because of the things that they have done. Our seniors have done in olden times, like during the Korea dynasty and all. Even Sokjeon Monastery, if this was not built, then will I be able to sit here and eat food? If Venerable Okyeon hasn't built in 1930s, will we be able to sit in this very good teaching room, sitting face to face with Buddha, where you're sitting here facing Buddha? We sit here listening to Buddha's teaching, and at least the time that we listen, it might anger you if you think about what to prepare for when you go home. But at this time that we are listening here, it is like the heaven. There is no place there. We don't have to go to heaven. Where was it, Park Won-sun? When he came after the teaching, it seems like he was coming when the teaching ended and when our believers were leaving. And he said, all Sokjeon believers, they have very happy face. And as I gave them all a packet of drugs. So until you go home, you are quite okay. But once you go home, you have a lot of laundry to do. But even the laundry is done by the washing machine. If you just press the button, the washing machine would take care of everything. And once it's done, it even has the melody. It's quite amazing. So in the previous stage, you're trying. The efforts that we put, it's like we're going up the slope. It's just that we are going up the slope. And since we are going up the slope, when we go up, our legs hurt and we get irritated and it's difficult. But when you go to the very top, and when you look at the sea that you can see, the difficulties that you had, all of them disappear. And so even when you don't want to study, we are going up the mountain to see the scenery where our hearts feel very light and feels really beautiful. So just like you're thinking about the top of the mountain when you're studying, when you are actually studying, you also have to think about the time, the happiness of the bliss that you'll be facing. You have to think, you have to encourage yourself in that way. And then you will have the willingness to try to put your efforts. This is being broadcasted online, right? And I liked Buddhist television, they had interview. And they asked me the question, in Yasu, how do we have to spread Buddhism and how do you have to propagate the religion? And I said, as a wordplay, I said you have to give up. And I said, you have to give up my life. And they asked, what's your outcome so far? And I said there are at least 40 to 50 people who are actually putting their efforts and try to study, reading the scriptures religiously, listening religiously, and reciting mantra religiously. I said there are about 40 to 50 people. How many? 100? No, it's less than 100. Where in the night when we do the final calculation, well, I also have to do some calculation in the night. Is Yongja reciting mantra? I think about it. And someone is also pretending to be doing it, but she's not actually doing it. So leave her out. And some doesn't really do the samadhi practice, but she's religiously following the voluntary activities. She's actually following the offering paramita, where the person is coming, the person is coming hard, but the person is just like the gong of the clock. And well, that itself accumulates virtue, but it's difficult to say the person is actually doing her practice. And so they asked me, how many believers you have in Seokcho Monastery? And I said, don't ask me how many, because that's not really related to me. Ask me if there's anyone who is actually doing the serious practice. Well, with the aspiration to become bodhisattva, well, look at it. Later, when the farmer does his farming, and how much of the crops can he harvest? And with that estimation, the farmer is planting the seeds. So which seed have you planted, and which plant are you harvesting? That has to be the center of the attention. But how big is your farm? You don't have to question them. No matter how much the farm, no matter what is the size of the farm, it doesn't really matter. And also the welfare the business that I do in Yasu, that's just that we have opened the door for people to participate in the offering. Just because I have opened this business opportunity, nothing good can happen to me. I have just done it so that we could also do a little practice of helping people or giving people with the opportunity to rely on when they are going through the difficulty. And so I said there are about 40 to 50 people who are actually doing their practice. So in the night, I do a little calculation myself. 1, 2, well, she's not. Well, maybe only about half. And 4, I do it. Well, when Chiang-lak was on TV, he had this thing of his own, right? The thing that I am suggesting you again, I'm suggesting you so that you study. Other than that, there's nothing that I want to suggest you. But whether you and me, we are doing it in order to study. There is no other motivation. But at least if you only even enter into the cultivation of the way, then we can at least see as a human being. There are quite many times, quite often we are not like a human being. Although we look like a human, when we get angry, we sometimes become asuras, and when we are so greedy, what happens? We become like the hungry ghost. Look at your face when you're so greedy. You're like the hungry ghost. If you, if you don't know how they look like, look at the fish. Look at the anglefish with big mouth and not very good impression. With anger and with greediness, you feel like you want to beat the other person to death. You become like the living being in the hell. If you're only after like those entertainments, then it's just like the entertainers in the heaven. So when we are born as a human, we should not forget to do our own practice. You understand? Well, if we remove studying in our life, then the rest, not starving to death and not freezing to death, and that's more than enough. You don't have to live in a big and grand house. Well, when you fall asleep, do you see the grand house when you're actually sleeping? Well, even me, sometimes I go to very good hotels when I go to India, where I sleep in very good hotel. And I think it's a really, really, really big loss. It's not that I cannot, I can stay awake. And if I sleep and if I get up, then hundreds of dollars go away. But with that, you get angry that they didn't give you the good hotel. But what is the use of having the good coffin after you die? Where if you well, if you want to take care of your dead corpse by using the royal foxglove tree and also apply the if you also want to do like lacquer, apply lacquer, then it's really bad because your body will not rotten. It's better to rot sooner. So when you're at this free stage, then you will feel the boundary when you are actually entering into the path where the obstacles of your previous conditions are eradicated. Where when you are at bliss, where the way to enter into the where when you enter into the first stage of dhyana, uh, people look like a balloon that's out of its gas, or like or you look basically like a soulless. Even if there's a rat running around you, there will be no response. There will be no much of skipping of the heart because of anything. Since that happens, and at the time, if you see, you can let go of this and that and many all of those things, and there will be also no difficulties. Even externally, there will be not many things that bothers you. And so, like Songgang Monastery's Venerable Muyong, people don't know that boundary well, and they give the nickname as a useless person. When you ask them to help you, they come with that, and when you ask them to follow, they come, and they have to let this go, but they just stand there holding it. They forgot. Well, if we ask you to let it go, they understand. If we ask them to leave it, they do understand. But for the workers, it becomes like, well, he's so useless. How can he eat his meals? It was the same for Shantideva. Well, I'm telling you that when at this boundary, it's like so. And because Shantideva was so useless, people put him on the stand to make fun of him. Because when he was asked a question, he would give such an accurate answer that they would not be able. They even lost the words, and so they thought, well, he's so useless, but he gives so much. He gives such an accurate answer. Let's put him on stand and let him suffer. And so he was put on the stand, and everyone from Nalanda University gathered, and they thought they are going to have fun today. And Shantideva said, the first sentence was, "Should I speak normally or should I speak in a poem?" And then he said, "Should I speak what's there in Buddha's scripture or should I make on my own?" And how difficult it is to write a poetry or compose a poetry with your own. So there was nothing on the table. And when he had nothing, he sat down and he recited a poem. He recited a poetry and he explained and he repeated that. And when he was speaking about the voidness, he actually showed that his body disappeared out of thin air. Well, we should be about that much. So stop thinking about little things. Don't think that you're not going to study. 4 people from here, 2 people from there. Don't think that you're not going to study, okay? Please don't have those little small petty ideas. Well, it doesn't really matter to me if you study or not, but when I went for the water ceremony, someone came and she was like she was so sorry, and then she was going below the table. And when I said, "Why are you so sorry?" She said, "Because I didn't study." And I told her, "You can just come to the teaching." And she had some diarrhea and this and that reasons, and the excuses, they didn't make sense. But still, she can still go to places where a monk is praying for like 3 hours and the prayer was so good. And I feel so sorry that you're studying at such a shallow level and it has no impact afterwards. I feel so sorry for that, but what can I say for you who is not studying? There is no reason to be sorry to me. You need to be sorry to yourself. You are going to suffer at the time. When you realize that you have been cheated, it will already be late. So that's why even if it's 30 minutes or 1 hour, you have to sit down, you have to concentrate, you have to practice. Try it and see how strong is the power. This affliction, greediness, and also attachment, even if you let it go just one, it's really, really light. Even if you let go of one, you'll be able to breathe better. There was also a believer, she had headache all the time. And she said, I feel lighted nowadays. And I said, I know. And she asked, how? And I said, your son who was giving you so much trouble, he disappeared, right? He went to America and she's happy that she don't see him. And since the phone call was expensive, it was also good. The son who was giving you trouble, even if he disappears in front of you for some time, you feel light and hurt. Well, when you enter into, the diamond pranya, the diamond, the everything that we put the diamond, when you enter into the first stage of dhyana, your mind will stay still without any kind of distortion. The highlight of the Diamond Sutra, uh, your mind is very rigid, very straight because you're not moved or swayed by anything else. When you have become the state of when you have become the state where you don't budge, we say you become like a Buddha when you have attained the immovable state. Well, everything that exists in this world, they don't have two forms and they are immovable and they are Buddha. Everything happened because of my afflictions. But if you look at it in truth, then there is no movement. It's unwavering. That's why there is no movement. It is the same. I made it so. There is no one who will be so kind to teach you other than Dalai Lama. Well, I think I need to compliment myself a little. I'm not doing this in order to get applause, but I am very kind at teaching. I'm very friendly at teaching. And you will come to the point. Well, this is not the point where we say you don't become like a woman. I'm saying a women, for two reasons, they have to do it a little harder because their attachment is stronger. We have the body that we can give birth, and the women have a body that we can give birth, and so without affections, you can't raise children, and so that's why until I tell you to let it go, but it's nothing but then you hold on to your grandchildren and while you do those kind of things. And also because women are a little weak, so even during the time of war, they were also violated in terms of violence, and so they're very suspicious. Amongst the people I hate the most, when I ask them to wash this, they could wash this and dry. Well, when I ask people to do something, they keep using their brain, and you shouldn't do that when you're actually practicing the law, practicing the Buddhism. When you are being told what to do, then ask me if you don't understand. if you don't understand, then just do it as you are told. It's not okay to say this. It's okay to do that, or it's okay to do this, and because of them, you have suspicion, and also the sense of attachment is stronger than men, and that's why that has to end, and it's not easy to end them, and that's why you're being told like that. But women can also gain or achieve enlightenment. Even for men, there are many things which is not possible for men. Well, men, they are bad in two terms. First is even when they are not possible, even when they're very weak or when they don't have the potential, they want to attain power or status at a high position. When they're 80, when they cannot even walk properly, they still do. I think Mr. Kim Jong-un also want to be a president. This really doesn't disappear. And men has greater attachment for money than women. And that's why women usually manages money at home. And because women manages money, it seems like women is stronger. But then men gives money and then controls the women. And so they are in fact controlling both money and women. If the lady of the house wants to leave the house, then they would take all the money back. The greediness is immeasurable. And if you cannot let that go, again the enlightenment. Well, letting that go is the enlightenment. When we say the bright heart, there is nothing more but letting go of the greediness. We say it's a warm and light mind. When you let go of your greediness and you try to do things for others, that is the warm compassion. Other than that, there is no reason for us to live our life while following the Buddhist practices and making you to reach to this point. There is a point where we call diamond, and also the unwavering state. Just like how a diamond breaks. Well, it is not the diamond, but in Sanskrit it's actually Vajra. It's like the lightning. It's the lightning. When the lightning strikes a tree, then the tree breaks. And only if you reach this boundary, then you'll be at a point where there'll be no attachments at all. And so in the end of the Diamond Sutra, it's written, if you make an observation like that, it will come true. Even in Prajna Paramita, because we have observed the voidness of our five skandhas, if we know that we ourselves are also void, then the attachments for ourselves will also disappear, so is our ego. How hard are you doing your practice, 정중심? Try harder. Continue doing that. You should not sleep it. Think that you are going to die if you sleep. And even when the time comes when your breath stops, you should not let go of your concentration. I keep asking you to do your studies in that way. Other than that, what can be talked about? It's not like the wordplay. Well, someone actually said, is there a Buddhist university there? And I said, they don't even give you the proper authorization. What's the use of it? The studies doesn't happen with the graduation batch number. It starts from your aspiration to do your practice. In the weird way, it starts from the point when you feel that you need to start with your practice and you need to study. Then, funnily, you will start to understand all different sutras or teachings. But without your aspiration, even if you are very wise, intelligent, intellectual, you will not be able to understand. However, even though our Sakcha monastery looks like a very not very like a naughty classroom. Well, I saw the cartoon, the Mengkungi. It was really fun. That was the cartoon that I liked the most, and also some other cartoons. The other cartoon is also quite interesting. The Motor Saints cave was so good. The cliff, it's all carved, and on top of it, the saint is sitting. And since he's a saint, he needs to have a big mustache, and it moves on its own free will. So when he's sitting on the mustache, and the man and the saint is actually floating in the air. So even to the very minute obstructions, even the things that bothers us a little bit, even the very small, very detailed agitation or obstructions, they should disappear. And when it becomes very clear or pure, we call that as a light. This is not the light that we see now, but there is a comparison. It has become as pure or as clear as the light. Well, if possible, while do your practice, in our everyday life, it's impossible not to talk. But try opening your mouth only when you are reciting mantra. Do not speak useless things, and even if you want to speak useless things, try closing your mouth. So I said, I want to invent a practice lipstick. Apply after breakfast, and it stays closed for 2.5 hours. Well, I don't think anyone will buy, but it will be nice to have such a lipstick. Lipstick for the practice of silent practice. If you don't speak, then you will be making less mistakes and less thoughts. Reduce your speeches to 1/10 of what you're doing right now. And also, when I ask you to reduce your speech, all the anger comes to your eyes. When I ask you to reduce talking, all the anger comes to your eyes and you walk around like this. And that happens because you don't pay attention to the place where you're having your concentration. If you do pay attention up to that point, then you will also find ease and heart. And well, if that happens, there is an omniscience in the trueness. Since you are able to attain this boundary, whether it is a supramundane wall or anywhere in this wall, there will be no point where you are not unaware. So, when it's also said that when the sun shines, when you look at it, you cannot see. But when you attain this sphere or this state, then there come the stage where you can see everything, where you know everything, and that is the wisdom. And at such state, we name you as Buddha. You are completely awake from the wrong and dark boundary or area of afflictions. So you have to continue to your practice until you reach the state. If you don't pursue your practice, then it will be devastating. If a phenomenon that happens which you cannot even take care of with anything, if you age, even with money or family or anything, it's also written in the Samdhinivimukkhana Sutra that there come a time when your children gives you water at the time of your death. You cannot even swallow water. And what are you going to do when you are at such a state? So at times like that, whether it's children or husband, they cannot do anything to you. So those of you who has family, because you have your family, you have to do it even harder. If you use them as excuse and if you don't do it, well, they cannot do it for you. That's why you have to do it regardless of them. You understand? Without practice, without change of karma, life is very. You can foresee the destiny. Whatever you talk about, it is bound to be. It's obvious. You go out to the park, and you can just see what's going to happen. And you also know what's coming. You don't even have to see, you know already. Well, my husband died in such a comfort. It is not so. Well, he just died without even putting up a good fight. Then people who are also looking at him at the side, do you think they also had their peace? Oh, the person died in his sleep, then the person would not even know that he has died. So you also attain omniscience and become absolute Buddha. And at this time, you say you have entered into the way, that you have attained the way. Now you have entered the door. You have opened the door and entered. You understand? At this time, you have opened the door and went in.
아시겠죠? 이제 이때 이제 문 열고 들어갔다 그 말이야.
If you open the door and enter, then because your afflictions disappear, you don't do things that accumulate sins. You're not do them, and you cannot even do them.
아가 사라지고 무아가 되고
You know the story of Angula?
사라졌기 때문에 죄지을 일을 안 하고
When Anglimara came to back, the baby who was being born went in again.
안굴란산 얘기 나오잖아, 그죠?
And so Anglimara was in so much hurry and told Buddha that something like this happened. What should I do? And so Buddha sat still and said, go and tell.
도로 들어가 버렸다니까. 그러니까 급해가지고 안굴마르가 쫓아와.
After I have entered into the door, I have done nothing wrong. And so he went and said the same and say, I will also not do any wrong things. And then the baby came out.
그 가가지고 제가 도에 던지로는 한 번도 나쁜
I think that really would have happened because Anglimara killed about 999 people. The course were like as huge as a mountain. He killed the moment he saw.
막 보이는 쪽쪽 내거리에서 다 죽였거든요. 시체가 쌓여가지고 산처럼 쌓였다.
This stage,
이 경지가 바로
this stage is the stage where you don't have to learn anymore.
무학도. 그 어떤 놈 자식이 그 무학을 갖다가 술 이름을 써놨어. 그건 학자지만.
The state where you have no more learning at all. You know everything. There's nothing to study and there's nothing to learn.
더 이상 이제 공부할 것도 없고
And it can be proven that when Buddha was asked question for 45 years, he answered everything. There was no question that he could not answer. And when you pass this state, we say you are at the state where you don't have to learn anymore. Likewise, after you enter into the first state,
세계를 지나면 저 무학도라 그런다.
2 wisdoms that you have attained
무학도.
in the supramundane world,
이와 같이 초지에 들어간 다음 수도에서 출세간에서 에서 얻은 두 가지 지혜와 지혜와 방편을 수행하고 점차로 수행하여 끊어야 하는 장애가 미세하게 축적되는 역시 미세하게 정하며 특별한 공덕을 덕이
these are the contents that has been explained so far. Likewise, if you enter into this state and if you practice your studies with 2 wisdoms you have attained so far, then you, with the Bodhisattva as its basis, you're also accumulating the merit and also you're entering into the proper studies. Well, with the proper offering paramita, just like taking out the cover of the chestnut, the thorns,
이걸 내가 수없이 설명했죠. 보시행을 잘 하면
we take it out just like we take our afflictions or our greediness out just like we take out the thorn skin of the chestnut by having the discipline. Well, when we are wounded, we have the wound and we apply medicine and we apply gauze and we also put bandage so that it doesn't touch, and that is just like that discipline. And we have to tolerate it until it gets better. No water, and we also have to sterilize it a day, and that is the tolerance and taking care of it, sterilizing, and that is also the discipline. And while you do that, the wounds they start to come. The wounds they start to get better, but with the wound it becomes a scar.
때 상처가 아물다면
When the scar, you don't want to see the scar, there's no plastic surgery needed, but you can do it with your practice of your heart. And at the time, it's a Savatha and Vipassana.
수행 수술을 할 게 아니라 이거 마음으로 좀
So you have to do your practice of pre-studies and also Savatha and Vipassana And in the stages of this practice, you have to attain the sense of bodhicitta, and the basis of bodhicitta
그 앞에 이 꽃님 수족
is the aspiration that you want to save all sentient beings from their sufferings and also their samsara. And what is the ultimate aim? That's the way to, that's the way to, or the road to Buddha. Then I will lead everyone. And over there, the aspiration that we will go together, it starts from compassion. And it's very important to have this thought.
여러분들 다 모시고 내가 가겠다. 거기에는
The system of Mahayana is this.
자비심으로부터 비롯된다.
This is the system of Mahayana.
가지는 것이 매우 중요하다.
The way to enlightenment has been so clearly laid out, and also there are many people, countless people who has attained enlightenment through this process.
이런 길을 갖다 이렇게 명료하게 얘기를 다 해놓고 이 길을 통해서 다 성취를 갖다 하신 분들이 굳이 기수로 나왔단 말이야.
It is also spoken in Lankavatara Sutra that you know, when our heart keeps moving and gets continued, the mind that happens before and the first mind when it disappears, there's a connection, the second and the third, and the continued mind. You seem they happen all separately, but it happens in continuation to the previous sentiments, and
일어나는 것이 한 개 한 개 따로 일어나는 것 같지만도 자꾸 상조.
this doesn't stop, but with the bodhicitta and compassion, this keeps happening, this keeps continuing. And so even after Buddha has gained his enlightenment, he never stopped the practice of six paramita.
그래서 부처님께서 부처가 되신 이에 육바람일 수행을 갖다 그치지 않았다. 육바람일 행을 갖다 그치지 않았다.
When the mind, when the manifestation of the mind continues and becomes pure, when the mind races and gets and dies, amongst the mind that happens, the anger or foolish thoughts or greediness, this doesn't happen. But for us, as for other sentient beings, because we have ego, because we have Atman, this keeps happening. The karma keeps happening, and the strongest thing, it happens in the strongest manner, and it dies in the strongest manner. That you don't feel others. And so, how is this world?
강한 것이 가장 강하게 일어났다. 가장 강하게 꺼져서 다른 것은 잘 못 느낄 정도라고. 그래서 이 세상살이는 어떻게 돼요?
Well, in our everyday life, the thoughts, as per our greediness or desire, this happens. So we tend to think of something that stimulates something even stronger. Then it causes more headaches. We need more stronger stimulant. For example, we drank a glass. Next time, a glass is not enough. So second, 2 glasses, 3 glasses, and it becomes 1 bottle. And if 1 bottle is not enough, you drink by box.
한 잔 먹었는데
And at the time of that, you cannot swallow anything, but instead you only drink alcohol. And at the time when you're drinking alcohol, maybe it's better. Well, this is a little not true, but at the time you cannot swallow anything, so maybe it's better to make the person drink alcohol more and let them die sooner.
맥에서 빨리 죽는 게 나아. 내가 좀 억지 소리지만 아무것도 안 넘어가거든.
Well, the article in Korean is sul, and it's just like the smooth sound how it's being swallowed. Well, it's been named well, but you should name it different. Maybe you should name it something makes you die or water that leads to your death.
이름도 걸리게 지어놔야 돼. 술 그러지 말고 뭐 죽는 것 그려놓든지 말씀.
Even in Samdhinir Mukhana Sutra, it's written that
점차로 보다
until
점처럼 마음을 확실히 정하여 무상정등 정각을 이루어서 구경문만한 완전한 청정을 무상정등전가. 그러니까
Well, it's written that through those stages of practice, just like gold, you cleanse your heart totally until you reach the Anuttara Samya Sambodhi state, and until then we do our practices. Just like gold, which we don't even know what is made of or impurities it has. Through studies, the wisdom and also the sense of compassion, they should continue to raise, and that we say that's the state of Buddha.
가진 밝은 공성의 지혜가 상속돼서 자꾸 나오게끔 하는 이것을
Well, when you say Anuttara Samya Sambodhi,
이것을 부처경계한다.
and that when we
그래서 무상정등
well, Musang means utmost. There is nothing beyond this, and Jongdeung
삼약 삼보리심
is the Samyak, the right and perfect. Although it is the best, although it is the utmost, the Samya means something that cannot be compared.
무등등 그래요.
It is the right enlightenment. Why is it the right enlightenment? Because afflictions has disappear. Because there is no other the heaven.
바른 깨침이다. 왜 바른 깨침이라고 했는가? 번뇌가 사라졌기 때문에. 극락을 따로 둘 필요가 없기 때문이다. 극락을 따로 둘 필요가 없어.
Finally, you attain the ultimate, the enlightenment, the perfect purity. So, as it is spoken in some part of China,
완벽한 청정을
if you say the enlightenment is the part when you have no thoughts, then it's just like it's like a stick. It is not true. When you enter into the all-knowing knowledge of Buddha, then just like the Yoi, you are accumulating your virtues, and with
일체지의 바다에 들어가면 여의주와 같이 일체 중생 유정 중생의 생정을
when you enter into the state of the all-knowing knowledge of Buddha, when the dragon has Yoiju, the marble, they say it goes to the sky. So the snake, who is not ready, it cannot fly to the sky. So Yoi here means as per your wish. And since the afflictions has ended, when you're at the state of Buddha, well, this is a very interesting thing. If you are greedy, then there is no way that you can fulfill or satisfy all your greediness. If you have no greediness, then everything will be contented or satisfied or filled. Do you understand?
그죠? 욕심을 하나도 안 내면 다 채워져요. 알겠는가?
Well, when you see your daughter-in-law and say, why does she have such a small eyes? Then the fact that she has small eyes will not be filled. But even if your eyes are small, if you can see everything, that's enough. That means it has been fully filled.
뱁새 눈만 해도 너 다 보이냐? 보인다 그러면 됐다 그래.
But if the daughter-in-law is not up to my standard, that means she's not lacking, but it is you. You have more greatness, isn't it?
그런 수준에 많이 못
That means she has more greatness.
게 아니라 지가 욕심이 많은 거거든.
And that's why it's always she's always unsatisfied. She's this and that, and
그래가지고 항상 불만이래. 지가 욕심 많아가지고
even while doing so,
어쩌고 쪼갈쪼갈
you say because she has done wrong, you are saying this, but it's actually you who is doing wrong. So if you let go of your greediness, you'll be all satisfied. She has two eyes, right? And even if she has only one eye, what can you do about it?
그러니까 얘한테 내가 욕심을 다 내려놓으면 다 만족이야. 걔도 눈 두 개 달렸잖아요. 그것도 눈이 한 개 달렸어도 어쩌고요.
Are you not sleeping? Venerable Hyungong, are you not sleeping?
앉아요. 응? 행공스님. 행공스님. 앉아.
The end.